All right, guys, I'm super excited. I've got a new camera, and with all the freaking choices that we have for 2019, just so many options. The Nikon Z6, the Z7, the Fuji's, Sony has their 6600 now, the 6400. Just freaking so many options. Full frame, APS-C, even the Panasonic GH5 is still an awesome camera for 2019. As of right now, we have a ton of choices as far as cameras. But I just bought a new one and I'm super excited to check it out. And I thought I would share with you guys since I do camera reviews and like to kind of try different cameras out. And actually this year I have been searching for a camera, trying to find that perfect camera, which obviously there isn't, but trying to find that perfect camera for me. And anyways, I've been renting a few cameras, trying a few out, and I've been really impressed with everything that I've tried out actually. But I've decided on a camera, and I thought that I would open this sucker up. So I've got this bad boy right here. What do you guys think this is? Did I go with the Fuji? Did I go with the Sony? Did I go with the Canon? Did I go with the Nikon? Panasonic? Which camera am I going to use for 2020? I'm super excited to open this thing up. I've had it here for like a week, and I haven't even unsealed the tape because I wanted to share with you guys this experience of opening up this camera. And I got to tell you, it's been really freaking hard because I felt like, well, maybe I'll just tape it, you know, take off the tape, tape it back up, but that's not the same, man. That's not the real experience. So let's open this bad boy up and I'll show you what's in here. Bum, bum, bum. Drum roll, somebody. Okay. Receipt. B&H. This might give you a clue. Boom! EOS R, or EOS R, however you want to call it. I'm hoping this was a good purchase. I probably should have rented it. But you know what? I freaking spent so much money renting equipment. I'm like, if I added up all the money that I've spent renting equipment, I could have just bought something. So anyways, I'd like to go into some more detail of why I chose this camera. And I really started to think back at it, and I'm like, what the heck? Why do I keep going back to Canon? Why is it that I really like the Canon cameras, even though spec-wise, the Fuji XT-3, I mean, that thing just kills it. In about every way, shape, or form, the specs, you know, annihilate this camera. But the biggest thing, so here it is, the lenses. I absolutely love Canon glass. And some of you guys say, well, yeah, you can get an adapter and put them on, you know, the Sony or the Fuji or whatever. And you can, and if you manually focus, that's fine. And in many cases, I manually focus. But when you're autofocusing with an adapter, a Metabones adapter or whatever, I found the focus just isn't very good. I tried that specifically on the A6400. I put my 70-200 Canon lens on it and used the Metabones adapter, and the autofocus was just really weird. It was like hunting back and forth, and it drove me crazy. And as of right now, the very, very end of 2019, I strongly feel that Canon has the absolute best glass that you can buy. And with this camera, you can put the EFS lenses, the EF lenses, and the new RF lenses. So your choices between Sigma, Canon, whatever, you've got a ton of choices for glass. And I already own a lot of Canon glass. And so that's actually probably the most motivating factor for me to stick with Canon cameras is because of the glass. I absolutely love it. And in the last video I did with comparing the Fuji XT-3 and the A6400, the main kind of A-roll shots that I shot were done on the Canon 60 Mark II with the Canon 70-200 version 3. And I just absolutely love that image. In that video, I didn't do any color correction. I didn't do any exposure correction. I didn't do any type of correction in post in those clips of that last video. And I absolutely just love the way it looks. The Fuji's nice, the Sony's nice, and I do like it. But there's just something about the way the Canon image looks to me that I really like. So really, after making that video, I decided, you know, it's great to have 120 frames per second. It's great to have that awesome 4K. But when it comes down to it, especially when you're uploading your videos to YouTube, I really just don't think it's that beneficial. The biggest thing that kills me on this EOS R, and it almost makes it the perfect camera for me, more than the 4K crop, which, I don't know, we'll see. You know, once I start using this thing, maybe the 4K crop's gonna really annoy me. The biggest thing that's my hang up on this camera is that it doesn't have 120 frames per second in 1080p. It's got it in the 720, but it doesn't have it in 1080. If this camera was similar to the 1DX Mark II and it had 120 frames per second in the 1080 like that, hands down, I wouldn't even have thought twice about not buying this camera. So that has been my biggest hang up all year long of why I haven't pulled the trigger on the EOS R, is specifically that it doesn't have 120 frames per second in the 1080. I really wanted a camera that has that. The Fuji XT-3 has that. It does it phenomenally. By the way, the A6400, 6600, both of those, the Sony. But I rented the Sony cameras, and the 1080, in my opinion, is not very good. I don't like the 1080. So if you're shooting in 4K and you want a real large file like that all the time, the Sony does pretty good. But the 1080 is just, I don't like it. I'm not real big on the color science. And although the autofocus is really good, and I think their color science has gotten better, I still prefer the Canons. I still prefer the way the Canon focuses, and I prefer the color science coming out of the Canon. So for me, Canon just is more of a preference for me than the Sony cameras. As far as the color science out of the Fuji, really awesome. The bitrate's really cool. Everything about the Fuji is freaking close to what I'm looking for. But again, it comes down to the lenses and that full frame look. The X-T3 is awesome, but I think I still really prefer the full frame sensor. And so for me, it's another reason why I'm sticking with the Canon. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this thing performs. I'm actually really glad I didn't buy it when it first came out, because I can't remember what it was. It was like $2,200, I think, when this camera came out in 2018. And Moki over here. This is Moki. She's over here chewing on the box, and she's really shy, so she's not going to hang out in the video. Oh, you're such a good girl. Okay, go do something fun. Where was I? So, the EOS R. Is it going to be good? Is it going to suck? I don't know, but I really, really like the Canon glass, and I'm not really wanting to invest money into other lenses. So it's kind of got me stuck. Canon kind of has me there by their glass. The new RF stuff is absolutely amazing. Those lenses are absolutely phenomenal. So it's going to be exciting to buy and start collecting some RF lenses for this camera, and then checking those out. So I'm really excited for 2020 to go through and use this thing. But anyways, let's open this box up. I've never even actually held an EOS R, so it's going to be pretty cool. Traditional registration card. Oh, another thing that's cool, 60 Mark II uses the same battery as the EOS R. I already have a 60 Mark II. I've already got 3 batteries for it, so now I'm going to have 4 of these, which is kind of nice as well. And the moment we've all been waiting for, the camera body. Oh yeah, I was saying that I'm really glad I didn't buy this when it first came out, because it was like $2,200, and I got one of those email links that allowed me to get this one for $12.99, so basically $1,300, and that's pretty cool. This is a pretty awesome freaking camera for 1,300 bucks. And that's the other reason that made me pull the trigger when I got that final email for 1,300 bucks. I've already been eyeing this camera. I've really wanted it. I feel like for $1,300, this is the best camera for me. The flip out screen. Everybody loves this flip out screen. Believe it or not, my 60 Mark II right now has the flip out screen. I do not have it flipped around. The reason why, it freaking bugs me when people are sitting there vlogging or whatever and they got their camera out like this and they're looking over to the side and they're like, am I in focus? How do I look? Drives me freaking crazy. Look at the lens. I don't know why that bothers me, but what I found is if I hold the camera out like this and I have the screen off to the side, I'm constantly looking off to the side and then looking back, and that's distracting to me in the videos. So personally, I actually don't like it. I use my phone. So when I'm setting things up and I'm checking the exposure and the focus and everything, I actually just jump on my phone. I've got the 60 Mark II hooked to my phone right now. For many people, the flip out screen is it for them. That is like their biggest deciding factor, that and the autofocus, which I love the autofocus, don't get me wrong. The flip out screen is nice sometimes. Here's where I don't like the flip out screen. And everybody kind of ramps and raves about why they think there shouldn't be any camera that has a camera that doesn't have one of these screens that flip out to the side. This is what bugs me. If you're trying to do like some 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second B-roll stuff, and you want to get a good handle on the camera, how do you do that with this screen like this? You can't. It's weird. So you have to hold the lens. Where the XT3, the A6400, you can hold it like this. So I feel like you can get a real smooth action motion, and you can have the screen tilted up instead of just being flat. And you can do this one flat like this, and that's fine. That's okay, but you can't tilt it up a little bit. And so if you're holding it in close like this to your body, you're not going to be able to see if anything's in focus if you're trying to get some good shots, because you can make your shots a lot more stable handheld if you hold the camera in close like this. The problem with this type of screen is it doesn't allow you to flip it up a little bit like the Sonys and the Fuji. So it's actually a downside for me. I'm not a big fan of the flip out. I mean, I'll take it. It is what it is. You can't hold it like this. You're just going to have to do the lens. You're going to have this arm out a little bit like this. For whatever reason, I like to hold it like that, and I'm not going to really be able to do that the same way that I would with the Fuji or the Sony. But right away, I can tell you I freaking love this camera. Just the feel of it, it feels really nice. The quality of it seems better to me than like my 60 Mark II. Anyways, what the heck. Let's pop this sucker on and quit shooting on the 60 Mark II, and let's get this baby. Let's give it a try. Here we are. This is 4K, 30 frames a second. And how does it look? Compared to the 60 Mark II, what do you think? Is there a difference between... I was shooting in 1080, 30 frames a second, auto white balance, standard picture profile. I've set up the camera exactly the same as far as all of that stuff. Face detection, autofocus. The only difference is now I'm shooting in 4K. I'm using the exact same lens, so there's no difference there. So as far as settings, lens, everything exactly the same. The only difference is now we're on the EOS R, and of course we're in 4K. So what do you think? Comment below. Did I make a good choice? Do you think it's worth $1,300 for 2020? Was this the best camera for me? Put your comments below. I'm super excited to hear from you guys. Keep watching the channel. I'm going to do some more reviews on this camera to let you guys know if I like it and how it's working out for me. Probably do some really in-depth stuff. So stay tuned to see what comes of the EOS R. Yeah. Whoa. I'm looking at the screen. Oh, yeah. Whoa. Yeah, maybe I was wrong. That was pretty good. Yeah, the screen does look really nice on this camera. But does that bug you? I mean, seriously, should I look at the lens and like focusing on you, or should I look over to the side and you guys are like, what you looking at? Of course, I do that a lot anyways. People are always like, man, what are you looking at? Because when I'm talking, sometimes I just kind of naturally just kind of look around or whatever. But when I'm looking up at the side like this, so far, looking at the screen, looking at the screen, it looks great. Tell me what you guys think. See you in the next video, bro.